Greetings and salutations, everyone. I am, as always, Darth Devious, bringing you another video review, and today, from NECA, their take of the Japanese version of Godzilla. This one is, of course, from 1994, Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla. And this is the more classic look of Godzilla from, you know, the Japanese films, from the 50s on up. And this actually happens to be one of my favorite designs of the classic Godzilla. They redesigned him slightly back in 1989 for Godzilla vs. Biollante, and they kind of kept that design through to Final Wars and stuff like that. And I was a fan of that. So when I heard that NECA was giving us a Godzilla from the 90s, I was stoked, because their other one is fantastic, the one from the new film. This one, though, it looks like it has a few more points of articulation than the other one, which we'll get into when I get him out of the package. But I can already see his claws can retract inward, like he's closing his hand into a fist, so that's kind of cool. So, yeah. And I love the white on the spines there. It's really nice. Yeah. The bottom says Godzilla. On the back, the picture of Godzilla. Huge picture. This is a big package for, yeah, NECA logo. So, yeah. I'm going to get this guy out of package, and we're going to take a real good look at him. I'll even compare him off with the 2014 Godzilla figure. Alright? Alrighty. Be back in a bit. Alrighty, and here we have the 1994 Godzilla out of package. He's really cool. Now, he is designed to be standing upright like this. As you may know, if you don't know, you really need to see the old Godzilla movies. Godzilla was always played by a guy in a suit. So you always had this upright stance with him. In fact, I'm going to try to zoom in on his neck here. You see these flaps here? These are actually the breathing and vision points for the actor in the suit. And they were always designed to be like these flaps in Godzilla's neck, to look like just skin flaps. But, yeah, that's what they really are. It's a nice little touch NECA put in there. I like that. I love the spines on his back. That's just really nicely done. Love that. And I love how they carry down into his tail. And the one thing about the old Godzilla is he had a very... His tail came to like an abrupt end like that. And that was, you know, just one of his little characteristics. You know, he's basically molded in this really dark greenish black. And there's not too much detail on him other than, you know, the skin and all that. And, you know, the paint on the back of his fins. And he's got his eyes are painted, his teeth are painted and stuff like that. We'll zoom in on his head and show that off. Look at that face. Look at that. Look at his eyes. They even picked out that you know, whole old Toho look on the eyes. And if you open his mouth, you can see there's his tongue, and he's got double rows of teeth on both the lower part of his jaw and the upper part of his jaw. And everything's painted in there. Even got his little ears molded on there. See that? And his claws are painted, which is nice. Nice little touch. It's really cool. It's a nice representation of the old school Godzilla from, well, basically from the 50s on. Godzilla did have a number of different versions, as I said, but but with the basic design. I mean, even we'll bring in the new one. Zoom all the way out here. Come back down. And then we'll bring in the new one. And you see, they're basically the same design. I mean, there's well, some differences. Like, his tail is a lot longer. It comes to this little whip on the end. His spines aren't as flowery, you could say. But they're still nice. His head is a different design. But then again, this was a CGI model. They can make him more animal-like than, you know, than the other. You see the feet are smaller on the new one. And his claws are more or less more reptilian, you could say. Articulation-wise, this one does have quite a few more points of articulation, but one thing it doesn't have is the head only moves up and down a little bit, and at the secondary joint, not at the first. I wish it would move here, but it doesn't really need to. As long as he can stand upright like this, he's fine. But, you know, that does move a little bit. I thought it did. Maybe not. Maybe not. Alright. But he moves at the neck. He does have a joint here. It's just, I guess mine's got paint in it, and I'm going to have to work on it. He has a shoulder joint. He has a joint there. Then his elbow rotates and moves. His wrist rotates. And then, like I said, his claws fold in and out, which is something this guy doesn't have. He has the wrist rotation. He has the elbow. He does not have the upper bicep swivel. And his arms do not move out as far as this one. I mean, look at that. This guy, his arms move out that far. His way farther out. Look at that. Really cool. Like, he can give him, come here, give me a hug, big guy. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's got the ball joint here. Oh, yeah. And the fins are broken up nicely so that you can, you know, move them around. Thighs move. When you move them, though, you do get a bit of a gap here, but, you know, that's part of the design. Knees rotate. They don't actually bend, but, you know, Godzilla didn't bend much at the knees. And then the feet are on ball joints as well. And then, just like the other one, the tail has a whole bunch of swivels and ball joints. The ball joint here, though, where you attach the tail from the package, is a little loose, I will say. And then it also has a wire inside so you can straighten it out. So if you really want the tail dragging behind him, you could. I like having a little bent upwards. It just gives him a little more character. But I love the articulation in the arms. Because, you know, with it being an actor in a suit, you could just get, you know, Godzilla would make all these arm flares and he still can't touch his hands together, but he comes close. Look at that. He can just about touch his hands together. And then, you know, he can fold them up and he's got pretty much fists. So he can, you know, fight some of these monsters. We need NECA to make a couple of these monsters. I would love to see their take on King Ghidorah and some of the others. I would love to see a Mecha Godzilla from them. That would be fantastic. I think NECA could knock that one out of the park. You listening, NECA? Mecha Godzilla, make it happen. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the new Godzilla film, NECA is taking care of you with this. If you're a fan of old school Godzilla, NECA has given us this. Fantastic representation of Godzilla from the classic series. Yeah, look at that. Two great Godzilla figures. Really, I recommend them both. This is awesome. This is like a childhood dream come true. To have a fantastically articulated Godzilla without having to pay the Monster Arts prices. Sorry, Sean. As cool as those Monster Arts figures are, I can't afford them, and you know it. So there you go, guys. NECA's 6-inch scale 1984 Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla. or better known as a more classic Godzilla. Recommended for Godzilla fans. Recommended. Get it. It's awesome. Get it. Or I'll send them both after you. Later. Alright, quick addendum on Godzilla here I'm adding in on the end of this video. When I first reviewed him, this part of his head was locked in place. It wouldn't move. Since then, I saw a few other reviews, and this part of the head was able to move. And I'm like, okay, why doesn't mine? Well, if you have that problem where the top part of the head doesn't move, you carefully pull this off, you'll see under this neck piece is a ball joint assembly that this sits on. See if I can pull it off, see? Now, if you look, you see it was glued in place. Why it was glued? It's not supposed to be glued. You see in there's the ball joint assembly. And this all comes off. As you see there, ball joint. So all I did was, pulled this off the ball joint, and then once I had the two neck parts separated, I was able to just easily break the glue, and now I can pop his head back in place, and I've got all the articulation in the upper part of his head, so he can do some cool moves now and look even more menacing. Just thought I'd share that. If you have that problem, I don't think it's widespread on these. In fact, I think mine was one of the only ones I've seen that had that. I don't know why it was glued. Didn't make any sense. Anyway, Godzilla's still cool. Get him.